Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about objects and classes chapter 7. 7.1 Objects. The physical world has a lot of different materials around you with metal, plastic, or it can be any other thing sitting around you. In order to understand, keep it simple, people deal with higher level objects like chairs made up of wood, as well as tables made up of wood or plastic, any other material. They try to perceive things as higher level objects. Likewise, a program is made up of items which could be variables, methods, packages, or it can be some pieces of code. To keep programs understandable, programmers often deal with high level groupings of those items known as objects. An object is a grouping of data and operations that can be performed on that data. Here we refer to data as variables and methods. In the example here, we can find various materials in the image. Green fabric wood, red fabric wood is treated. Basically there are different kinds of wood and metal. These are different materials that we can see in the image. And on the other side, towards the right, we try to group these materials into different objects. We have chair, couch, and drawer as three group of objects, or basically the group of materials. Chair having green fabric and wood, couch having red fabric and wood, drawer having wood and metal bar are three objects. Abstraction. Information hiding is always necessary because users do not need all the details of what is going on. So abstraction is basically to hide information from the user. We hide low-level or internal details from the user. This can also be called as encapsulation. ADT, or abstract data type, is a data type whose creation and updates are constrained to specific well-defined operations. We have various different abstract data types in Java, which we will learn later on. We'll see an example of how abstraction can be perceived in the world. The first image is a stove, and what we try to avoid is finding details or what inside, what materials does this stove is made up of. We're not interested in this. We do not want the user to know more of the details of what the materials the stove is made up of, so we just try to avoid and we just stick to the higher level abstraction. The first image is what abstraction means. A class is just a group of data and methods. We want to group the materials into objects. In the same way, we want to group variables or data and methods in a program into a piece of code called object. A class's public member methods indicate all operations a class user can perform on the object. Member methods, which means the functions that the class can have, or the methods that the function can, or the functions that the method can be used to. There are private fields within a class which cannot be accessed by the user. A class's fields and methods are collectively called as class members. The programmer defines each member method. Sometimes we call it as implementation. A method definition provides access modifier, written type, name of the class or object, various parameters, and the method statements, which is basically the code. This is what a typical class looks like. Public is an access modifier and class is a keyword which is only used before the name of the class or to initialize, not initialization, which is used to declare the class or define the class. Here public class restaurant in the curly braces open up to define the member methods of this class. Public void set name is a member method. String restaurant name is an input of this method. Similarly, public void set rating has an integer input which is named user rating. In the other method is called print, and its return type is void, which basically means it doesn't return anything. These functions are typically used to print names or print variables from within the class. We can also have fields or variables within the class. Private string name and private integer rating are two fields which are declared within this class. In the last three lines of code are basically initializing or creating a new object called restaurant, and we are assigning this object to a variable of type restaurant, and the name of the variable is favorite place. And in the next one we're trying to set the name of this restaurant as Central Delhi. The text within the quotation marks means we are giving it as a string input, and the favorite place is being weighted as number 4, an integer. We are trying to set the weighting of this place, or basically the favorite restaurant, as 4. Let's see what mutators, accessors, and private helpers are. Mutators are used to edit some information within the class. It could be restaurant name or it could be rating, as we have seen in the previous slide. The method set name is used to change or update the restaurant name. Here what it means, it is not written anything. So an access method accesses fields but may not modify class fields. The previous mutator is trying to modify the fields, and whereas the accessor is trying to get the data from class. So it just returns the data within the variables of the class. It doesn't modify anything. So it's called an accessor. Commonly, a field has two associated methods, a mutator to set the value and an accessor to get the value, known as setter and getter methods respectively. And we try to name these methods starting with set or get. Initialization and constructors. Every class has some variables, and we try to declare the variables and initialize them at the same time, which is always a good practice. Java provides special class member methods known as constructors. One of the primary jobs of this constructor is to initialize the variables of the class. Every class does have a default constructor which does the job of initializing these variables. Here's an example of default constructor. The method public restaurant here is the default constructor of the class restaurant. It is trying to assign the name and weighting of a restaurant object that is being called. So whenever we create an object of this class, the default constructor will execute and initialize the variable's name and rating as we have declared in its definition.